Hi there, welcome back to ADSR Tuts. Today we're going to be looking at Polyplex, the brand new instrument released as part of Komplete 10 by Native Instruments this week. Polyplex actually put together by Twisted Tools, so if you're familiar with any of the other Twisted Tools products like Ultra Loop, some of this GUI might be a little bit more familiar to you. So it's going to be a little bit of a features overview of what Polyplex is and some of the stuff it can do. So Polyplex is essentially a sampler, but it's kind of so much more than that because you have these 8 pads here, and within each of these 8 pads you actually have 4 samplers, so it's effectively like 32 samplers. So with each pad there's 4, with each one of these pads there's 4 different samplers in here triggering different samples. So it's a great way for making your own drum hits, layering up drum sounds, sound designer's dream, but also, as we'll kind of look at, you know, if you don't really want to get too under the hood, you can still create awesome stuff with it. So I'm going to kind of go through and just discuss what's happening here with everything. So first thing to mention really is, in order to use Polyplex you need the latest version of Reactor, so 5.9.2. It's a Reactor ensemble, I didn't mention that at the start. So you need Reactor 5 in order to load and use Polyplex, and you actually need the latest version 5.9.2. and yeah, along the top here we've got some kind of like header kind of controls here, kind of global controls really, and this thing here is randomize, and this is awesome, and it's a way of just randomizing all the features that are happening here. So all these samples within, or samplers within each of these pads, we can just randomize everything. So if I play this pad number 6 here, it's kind of like a sort of hi-hatty cymbal thing, just randomize that, turn into a snare, and you know, it's awesome. And so, and you've got basically this dice here, and this is like the randomization amount. So if I just want to do a little randomize, you see these parameters here. If I just click in here, it's just randomizing these parameters very slightly. If I click all the way to the right, you know, it's much more extreme, the amount of randomization it's going to apply to all these parameters, and that's global. And then it kind of works its way down. So you've got randomized global there. You've actually got undo here, so you can undo all these randomized steps. You know, undo it if you liked how you had it initially. Keep undoing, and that's how it. That was the kind of like initial state of the sound of that pad, and then it goes down. So for each of these pads we also get a randomization. So this is good now. It's just me clicking this dice here. It's just going to randomize parameters on sound 4, this pad 4. And again, just clicking over here, small randomization amounts, clicking over to the right, much more extreme randomization. And I can actually turn, now we get into the pad level, I can actually turn the randomize off. So now doing this randomize, it's going to randomize all of these pads, but because I've turned it off for pad 4, it's not going to randomize. So there's loads, and the same works down here for, as we're going to get into what everything's happening, what all this stuff is down here, but you can actually just randomize the pitch of the samplers contained within this pad here, and then you could turn that off and turn the samples off, and just say we only wanted to randomize the volume here, you could do that like that, or we wanted to randomize the volume and the pan. And the pitch, then we can do. So loads of control for those randomization features. So to the right of that we've got this little keyboard here, and this kind of stores like kit variations. So it stores and recalls all the settings of the current kit, including like the master, velocity, decay and tune and stuff. So we can have that sound there on pad 4. If we go to this next key along, you know, that was the kind of initial state of the sound. So I could go to this key here and start messing around with this, change it, and I've still got that kind of initial state of that key there. I can go ahead and change that, and I'm creating sort of different kind of samples within this one pad that I can just flick through. And so to the right of this keyboard here, we've got these copy and paste functions. So say if I, on this first key here, I've got that sample there, I could actually copy that and then go to this next key and then paste it in there, make some changes. I've still got that initial sound, and then I've kind of made some changes to that one. I could copy it and then paste it in here and apply some randomization. So loads of control. To the right of that, we can actually, because it's great obviously using a MIDI keyboard with Polyplex, and you can actually select at the moment pad 1's C3, pad 2's D3, E3 and so on, but you could actually change this and you could go I want them all to be along C4 and upwards, and then just hit that white key. And now if I go up an octave on my keyboard, I've reassigned those pads to C4, D4, E4, etc. I can go back to C3, hit the white keys, and at the moment it's just the white keys what are going to trigger these pads. I could actually go chromatic as well, so using the black keys as well. And yeah, so I mean, just triggering them from the MIDI keyboard, if you've got MIDI controller or something, you know, it's a great way of just kind of creating some rhythms and some kind of drums and stuff like that. So we've also got this, that's the follow button there. So if I I'll come out of that there. So follow, if follow is activated, so I'll go to pad 2 now, and puts all the pad 2 stuff in focus. Pad 3, it puts all the pad 3 stuff in focus. If I turn that off and go back to and hit trigger in pad 2 now, keeps pad 3 in focus. So if you wanted to kind of edit pad 3 whilst you were kind of playing pad 2, you could do that, and it's not going to switch over all the time. If you want it to switch over, you can, you know, that focus. So we've got velocity there, so turn that down to 0 and no velocity sensitivity whatsoever, up to 100. And I love this as well, the kind of like the waveform there that you see. That's really cool. So yeah, velocity, tune, global tune. And you can double click these things to kind of reset them back to their kind of default state. We've got decay, global decay of all the samples, which is great. So if you want to just tighten up the tail and all your sounds, make them a bit sharper, that's great. And then volume, and also this is like a limiter button at the end here, so even hammering all these sounds at the same time, we're not kind of like redlining. If I turn that off, you've got to hit quite a few sounds, you know, it redlines, but with the limiter on, you're not going to go into the red. So that's pretty nice. And then you work your way down. So we've got this sample here, you've got solo button there, so it's soloed pad 1, or you can mute pad 1, obviously unsolo it to hear the other sounds. We've covered the randomization for all of these pads here, and then we get into the kind of the stuff about the pad itself. And so in sound 1 we've got these 4 samplers here, and then we've got some kind of master controls for these 4 samples, so samplers. So volume, balance, so we can pan them left and right, tune. So this is just going to affect these samplers here. It's not going to affect like the other pads the way that the tune up there would. This is just all stuff specific to this pad. And then decay as well, just for that pad, or these kind of 4 samplers. And then we go down in here, and that first kind of like button there, that kind of just resets everything here. So you know, if you start playing around with some stuff, and you know, all the parameters are kind of like you move them all over the place. You just want to reset everything, just click that, just takes the pitch back to 0, kind of pans them, resets the pan, the volume and everything. So next to that you have copy and paste. So before we were copy and pasting to different keys, but what we can do here is copy and paste to different pads. So say I want to kind of duplicate that sample into the second slot here, and then just make some edits to it. I can kind of copy, go in here, paste, make some edits. I've still got that original kind of light sound there, and I've just kind of tweaked it a little bit. And then next to that, you click this kind of little icon here, and there's a couple of extra kind of things going on here. So this user thing is off, and it's got the little dice next to it. That means the randomization for user samples, so you can, all the samples that you were hearing here so far is stuff that comes with Polyplex. So it's the kind of all the presets, all the sounds, but you can load your own sounds in here. I'll show you how to do that in a bit. And if you have your own sounds loaded in here and you turn it on, it means when all these randomization's happening, your user sounds are actually included in the randomization. By default it's off because I've not had Polyplex very long, so I've not created any kind of user sounds or anything. So if that was on and user got randomized in here, it would just be an empty sound, so it wouldn't make, it would be no sound whatsoever. So it makes sense that by default that is off, but once you started loading your own sounds and samples in here and made your own user kits and stuff, you could put that on, and then all your sounds are kind of included in those randomizations that I was showing you before. You've got choke groups as well, so at the moment it's off, just kind of click it and drag it up, and you can set you can send it to a choke group. So if I send that pad 1 to choke group, and I say I want pad 3 to, or pad 2 to chop off, I don't want them to both sound at the same time. Pad 2, send that to the choke group. So now they're going to chop each other off. So that's quite nice if you had like open hats and closed hats, and you wanted to do like, the cymbals kind of thing. The closed hats choking the open hats. You can set that up in there. You've also got this output main, so you could use Polyplex as a multi-output instrument. So you could change, in here you could go pad 1 goes to output 1 and 2 in stereo, and then pad 2, 3 and 4. Of course I'm in Logic here, so I would have to reload Reactor as a multi-output instrument, and then kind of set it up like that. Below that we get into the samples, so or samplers. So 4 samplers here, and some kind of more sort of basic settings over to the left. So we can turn this sample on and off. If I mute the other samplers in here, so we just got that kick drum there, we can turn it on and off. We can reverse it. It's not really got much tail, so you're not going to notice. If I load up a different sound in there, can reverse that sound. We can actually collapse the sound to mono here. There's not actually a lot of stereo information there anyway, so, but you can collapse it to mono, invert the phase, or lock it. So if we lock that sample, so I'm doing these randomizations here, and this snare clap, nothing's changing on that. Kind of staying the same, even if I apply, turn the randomize on for all of those pitch, start and pan there, it's kind of changes. So if you just wanted that, you thought that snare clap that was sounding nice, but I just want to kind of randomize everything else here, just lock it and you can do that. And then you've got this link button here, so you can link, so you can basically, this is where you can apply, edit these parameters all together. So link them now, and I'll take the lock off the snare clap, and now they're kind of, just editing the pitch of one of these, edits the pitch of all 4 because we've got this link button on. So so that's pretty nice. Then you get into type and subtype, and like I was saying before, all the sounds just they're so nice. Like just the sound quality of these sound like. So we load up kind of, you know, different types you've got there: kick, snare, clap, hi-hat, cymbal percussion, tom percussion, one shots. So one shots just get these really cool little sounds. Amazing. And then you've got your user in here as well. So as like I was saying before, when you load in your own samples, you can actually load in a kind of one of your user kind of samples in there. So your own sounds basically. So and then within types, you've got subtypes. So one shot, I've got, you know, mechanic, vocal, you know, and say if I was gonna load a kick in here, subtypes, sub kick, digital kick, analog kick, acoustic kick, you know, all sounds really nice. All the sounds are just so nice, and that's just for that one sample and then sampler, and then you've got the 4 samplers within this one pad and the 8 pads. So, you know, just the creative possibilities are kind of like endless, really. And then once you've got that vocal loaded there, select which sample plays back. I'll just double click that now. Mute. So within that subtype, you know, what's it go up to there? 127 different samples, and then yeah, then we've got the pitch, the start of the sample, the offset, the pan, the volume. And another thing you've got here is if I double click that, you get this little kind of purple icon there, and what that does is it kind of locks the sample setting for this sample. So if I now start randomizing again, it's not going to change that samples there, what's playing back with that icon there, the kind of purple thing there. It's locked that, so I could lock the pitch to whatever it was. You can still go in and edit it, but you could lock the pitch to -14 and then do some randomization, and even though I wanted to randomize everything else within this sampler, but I wanted to lock the pitch and the samples, you can do that. Just double click anywhere in this kind of area here, this bar, and that kind of locks that individual parameter. So main here, so this is like your pitch, start, pan, volume. Then you get into envelope, so you can, you know, like you can delay the offset of the envelope, attack, and you've got kind of ADR sort of envelope here, attack, decay, and release. So what I thought this was really cool for was, so if I just load up the initial kind of patch that we had to begin with, so we've got a nice kind of snare in there. And so if we go back to this delay, it's really cool for just kind of creating maybe like stacked claps or stacked snare. So delay the offset of the snare there. You know, and just got this really cool like sort of stacked clap or stacked snare. You know, that's really cool. Yeah, we just discussed the other envelope parameters there, and then you've got EQ as well. So you kind of set the frequency in the low shelf. So say kind of 340 hertz. You see that you get these little kind of readouts there of what, you know. So go down to about 320 hertz there. You might notice a bit more if I kind of link all of these together. So all 4 samplers here, and then, you know, you set the frequency in the low shelf, and then you set the gain either plus or minus. I'm assuming that's dB there, that plus 24, and then the same again for the high shelf. So wanted to just boost like 2K on all of these snares and claps here by plus 9 dB. You can do that there, or just kind of dip it out. And yeah, so we'll come back to the global effects in a second. I'll just discuss all of this stuff down here, the modulation and what have you. So underneath these parameters here, if you notice the main envelope and EQ, you get this little slider, and that's the parameter range. So that selects the minimum or maximum range at which the above parameter can be modified. So if we're going to link all of these up again, kind of boosting quite a lot of high frequency there, you could actually just scale that down. You know, or scale this down as well. So it reduces the effect. So if you just kind of wanted a bit of more of a subtle effect on the kind of high gain boost that you were doing there, you could actually adjust that just with this slider here. So underneath here we have discussed these randomization options here. So you know, if we go to this pad here, again, you know, randomize the low gain there, or go back to the main, just randomize the pitch. It's not going to randomize anything else, you know. So yeah, the randomization is really cool. And then we've got modulation here, so we can either use an envelope or an LFO to modulate. You can also modulate via velocity, and say something like that. It's got a bit more decay there. That snare, I'm going to take some of that high frequency off. So yeah, the way we can kind of apply modulation here was we can, imagine these are like columns here, low shelf, low gain, high it all goes down. So all of these 4 parameters in each of these pages can be modulated by any of these parameters down here, so LFO or envelope, or via velocity. So if I wanted to modulate the pitch of these sounds with an LFO, turn it on there, and then just the amount, and you can see this kind of like sort of like more dimmed out grey bar there. That means we've got a modulation going on the pitch, and via this LFO. If I increase this frequency now, these are all going to move much faster. You can hear the pitch is being modulated now. And you can actually sync them as well. And so you've got, this is a re-trigger, so the LFO re-triggers for each new key press, or it's just kind of free running. Also sync, so now the frequency is kind of BPM synced. Might work with something a bit more effective, something a bit more decay on there. So they sound like that. So let's use a LFO to modulate the pitch of that there. Sync it. And if you take the amount down, you can double click it and it just takes it off, or you can go, and that's just going to basically reverse the direction of the modulation. So it's going to reverse the direction of that LFO. If you go into the minus or negative territory, you can change the waveform of the LFO. You can also adjust the start points of that LFO. So you get a square wave LFO. We've also got attack and release for the LFO, so if we change it to like a triangle wave LFO, we get a slow attack on that LFO, or we get a slow release. Amp for the LFO, and then you turn that off and use an envelope instead to modulate the pitch here. So again, you've got this envelope here, you can adjust in attack, decay, sustain, release. So you know, so just loads of kind of like scope there for kind of getting really stuck into some sound design stuff. You've also got this spread here, so this offsets the modulation for each voice. So go back in here, turn that LFO back on. And if you notice these, this is the kind of LFO moving here. If you notice, these all change when I move this spread around. So it's a bit more uniform the way it's going there. If I move it to the middle, it's a bit more, kind of offsets them a little bit. So just a way of adding kind of like just interesting kind of modulation really. So yeah, and let's look quickly at this global effects. Like I said, next couple of tutorials going to get stuck into sound design a little bit more, but just look at this global effects, because again, this is just kind of next level with what you can do. You've got insert effects and you've got send effects. So with insert 1 on here, and I'm actually compressing this sound here to add a slow attack. Obviously extreme compression there to the point of distortion. Turn that reverb off. And then you've got in here, so this is adjust the level into the effect from all sounds basically, so not just from that first pad but also from the second pad going in there as well. Turn that down. And then mix, so this is like for basically parallel compression, just like there, you know, mix, so that's like fully wet mix, but then you could sort of slide that down. You can also, you've got this envelope, so you can modulate this effect, which is crazy. So I could go, you notice you've got that little kind of like slider that's moving there now, and that's the amount of modulation. So I'm actually applying an envelope to the threshold of this compressor now with a fast attack and a fast decay, fast attack and slow decay, or a slow attack, fast, and then you've got this curve as well, so that controls the exponential curve of the modulation envelope. So you're getting some different envelope movement there, and you can actually link the effects into series mode. So at the moment it's compressing, turn its reverb on. Right, okay, yeah. Insert A on and off, and then insert B on and off. So now we're going to get some reverb. And at the moment, the sound is going from this pad into both of these insert effects and then to the output. But if I link it into series mode, it's going into the compressor and then into the reverb. So the output of the compressor is directly affecting the input of the reverb. So again, just loads of scopes, so we could high pass that or take it out of series mode. And then you've got send effects, so I can actually send one of these effects to one of these send effects slot here. So if I take the send effects of this pad down to 0, turn that reverb off, and let's add a reverb in here. And so what we want to do is we want to apply some flanger to the reverb, not to the sound itself, to the reverb effect. Got the send down to 0, turn on this effect, and turn on that flanger there, and then this S1 and S2 here, this is for send 1 and send 2. So I'm now sending the reverb to the flanger. So that's the flanger effect on the reverb. If I turn that reverb off, you're not getting any flanger until I increase this send here. And these effects, we're going to get stuck into these a little bit more, but these effects just sound awesome. So also pan the effect and this output of the effect as well. But yeah, loads of effects to kind of get stuck into here. Stutter, I want to get stuck into this a little bit more because this sounds really cool. Yeah, and you can turn the effects on and off there, and then get back into your sampler kind of edit page there by just clicking that global effect. So bit of a basic. Oh, one final thing I haven't mentioned so far is all the presets, just that they're ready to, you know, scroll down and you've got all of these kind of ready to go drum kits, which all sound awesome, you know. And so yeah, loads of cool presets, just ready-made kits to kind of get stuck into. And just to show you the power of that kind of randomization feature, a very simple kind of like MIDI programming here. I've just got a 4x4 kind of like rhythm going on the first note, and then you know, just very basic kind of MIDI programming. If I change this to chromatic here, and just to give you an idea of this randomizer, so very basic MIDI programming. And hit this randomization. And you're just creating new rhythms, just like that. Let's randomize it, and this is this rhythm just playing back all these hits. So just awesome for just creating new loops and stuff like that. So yeah, kind of a features overview. Obviously it's quite a long tutorial, there's a lot to cover there, so I'm going to be going back in next couple of weeks, just getting more stuck into this and just doing a bit more sort of sound design stuff with it. So hope you enjoyed that tutorial. Any questions, please get in touch, and thanks for watching. Alright, cheers, bye.